Fellas, about to get it. I've been working on this motor for like the past 2 days, but we got a lot of good components in this thing, and that's going to be on the Teachable website. It's been hot out here today. My goodness. Build from a fresh engine. You know, don't go taking your workhorse like I have my Champion 196 replacement motor on my boat now. I may get sick and tired of building this thing. I may go fishing tomorrow. I mean, it's always fun to start working on the engine. And it's always fun when you finally get that first crank and you finally get that first run. But the whole period in between is absolutely miserable to me. Build a dedicated performance engine. Don't tie up your work engine for a horsepower engine like this. Because I lost a whole fishing season off of building these little motors, man. And that motor eventually blew up and I lost a whole season. I said, man, if I ever build another one, first of all, I'm going to buy me an engine that doesn't have an oil sensor in it or a governor in it, and it'll be a lot builder. I mean, where I am right now with this motor, after 2 days of working on it, took me almost 2 months before. If you go back and watch the build from last year. Another thing I like about this build is it's going to run 22 millimeter springs in it as opposed to 18. 18 millimeter springs are good, but they're taller. And a lot of Mod 2 guys run 18s, but I think the 22 millimeter spring is a better spring. Simply because it's about the same height, nearly the same height as the 10.8 pound springs that come stock with like these box stock type engines, and except it's just much thicker wire. It may be 1 or 2, maybe a millimeter or so taller, but essentially the same height but much thicker springs, and that's how they're getting 22 pound springs. The reason I don't want to spend the 10.8s in this thing is that this is going to be a work engine. You know, performance work engine, no doubt. It's going to definitely produce more power than the stock. And we got a good camshaft. We got the NR230 camshaft, the marine version, the winch version. You know, I'm able to use the stock valve train with this thing. I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, despite how miserable it's been, we're going to have to hook up the fuel pump, and I promised people I'd give them that for free, because this is all part of a class that I'm doing over on Teachable. We're so close, man. We're so close. We're having to wait for studs to set in and dry and stuff overnight. Just going to be running a good old pipe here. It's the Robertson's straight pipe or boat pipe, mud pipe. I refuse to pay more money for the pipe than I paid for a whole motor. I'm sorry. It comes with a brace, see? Because the last time I bought one of these, I lost so many of these mufflers. There'll be a brace there, and that'll bolt to the engine. So now you got this nice pipe here that has a clamp on it. I'm surprised that not more mud motors people use this pipe. I mean, they want the Torx tube, which I understand, but if I'm going to spend some money, it's going to be on the camshaft and the rod and the piston and stuff that's actually going to give me a buttload more power. I know the Robinson's loop tube gives you a lot more power because it has a somewhat of a turbocharging effect with the staging on it and the back pressure in it, and especially for the RPM range I'm running down there below 5,000 RPM, 5,500 like that. That really is the ideal pipe for this motor, I believe. Part of this build is affordability, and I'm going to put my money in the internal components with the rod and the piston and the camshaft, and of course this. And then the billet flywheel and all that, because we're building for longevity, we're building for durability, and we're building for efficiency more than anything, which the engine's going to waste less power. By definition, you're going to have more power. There's no reason why we couldn't fire it, but again, I got customer orders I got to get out, I got videos to edit, you know, and it is getting to that part of the year here in Alabama. It's getting to that miserably pathetic, you walk outside and you just like want to die because it's so hot. That's why it's the main reason you see me have the hat on. I gotta do a review on this hat, man. This is great on the river. I mean, you take the hat off, you think your head's getting hot, right? You take the hat off and that sun starts beaming, you'll be like, oh crap. This is a simple build. You know, we're not going radical with this. We're not using any radical camshafts or anything. Or a lot of people run these mud motors, and the first thing we want to do is start getting more horsepower out of the thing without knowing they're going to be burning more fuel as a result. I mean, how do you make more horsepower? You burn more gas, or you burn more fuel mixture. You dump more fuel mixture into the cylinder to burn more. So that little 1 gallon tank, it ain't going to get you too far. And so the first thing they do is start wanting to putting open element filters on and put a good pipe on. That's what most guys do. And then a lot of guys forget to reject the carburetor. That's what most mud motor guys consider to be like stage one. I don't think in stages anymore. I think the whole stage thing makes it easy for people to sell kits or buy kits, and I can just buy this kit and just, well, there was a day and age where you didn't buy kits to make horsepower. You just had to get tools and start wrenching and scraping and dremeling and to make power that way. You had to make the power, you didn't just buy the power. But my point is that they don't ever do anything to address the fuel delivery. Not so much fuel delivery, but the fuel quantity. A 1 gallon gas tank on a 200 class cc class engine is not going to get you too far up the river, especially if you're adding more fuel and you're pushing 500 pounds through a medium that's 800 times as thick as air. You just need a bigger tank, and so that's part of the thing, is to put a bigger tank on the things. So what we got is a Walbro. It is taking advantage of the Venturi effect that happens in carburation and using the vacuum there to pump to power the fuel pump. So it's not electric or anything, it's just simple fuel pump. All right, and we'll put that on there, and that'll be all the power we need to power the fuel pump. And then the gas will come into here, okay, and then it'll flow out here, down here into the carburetor. That is going to work. And I just got some fuel line just from like the AutoZone, whatever. Nothing fancy, just, I don't care about looks and stuff. I care about function more than form. Sort of interested in the list of the components that I have. I'm going to put those up on Teachable, hopefully by the time you're watching this, and you can go check it out there. Just be sure to check links in the description, that kind of thing, which means you'd have to sign up on Teachable because that's where the class is going to be, but the fuel pump thing is going to be for free, and I'll give more information on that probably in the next video. So if you don't get it this time around, or I don't get it this time around, I'll definitely get it for the next video. Oh yeah, one more thing. This motor comes with some cheap, no-name Chinese spark plug, and we're not dealing with that. I've never been a big fan of the auto lights. I just don't like that the auto lights have a narrower hex on it. It just makes me mad. So what we're doing is we're gonna run some NGKs, man. We got some NGKs, BP8ES. That's what I ran on my Predator. So basically an old-fashioned, old-fangled motorcycle spark plug. There's nothing fancy about it. It's just a good, reliable spark plug. Probably could have gone to BP7 and been fine. But we're all running a little bit more compression. We got more lift on the camshaft. A lot of people would run an Autolite 3910X or whatever. This is a little bit warmer than that, but I haven't had any problems. In fact, I had a 3910, just a regular 3910. I just got all kinds of fouling on it. I bumped it down. I went a little hotter to a BP8ES, and it was perfect because we're running 5,500 RPMs instead of 3,600 RPMs. We're running more compression, and we're running more gas and fuel getting in, and so that all means higher temperatures. And it's actually cooler on the river a lot of time on these hot days than there is any other time, especially if you're below the dam and that nice water just misting. Oh, it's so nice and cool up there. You don't need the resistor plug. The resistor's already in the... another thing I learned is that these box stock type motors, you need a 21 millimeter bolt to set the torque on the starter nut. I mean, that was like surprising because on the Predator it was just 19 millimeter. So I go to Home Depot, I get the 21 millimeter, and it turns out it was ½ inch. I had to go take it back and went to AutoZone, bought another one. It was just a frustrating thing. You have to run around town finding the right bolts and finding the right stuff, and most of what I do is just think all day. I'm a thinking man, and so I'm just thinking about how I'm going to do stuff. Then I just go do it and get it done, and then go do back so I can go back and do some more thinking. Right? For some reason, this thing didn't come with any bolts, man. Something that was like, okay, that's lame. If you have any questions about these motors, let me know. I don't know when I'm going to put the class up. I got to edit all the video and all that, and thinking what would be the next step beyond this, because this is essentially going to be like a tame street engine. It's not going to be a big massive hot rod spinning tons of RPM. First thing I do is just get a different carburetor. I'll probably just get a 22 millimeter Mikuni. You just bolt on a couple horsepower, just thinking of carburetor. I think one of the things I've been listening to Jody over at Arc Racing, videos up on Facebook, and then he dumps them on YouTube. And you don't build from the ground up, you build from the carburetor back. Right? And that's one of the things he advocates, and that's something I've taken to as well. What carburetor you want to run? Figure that out first. I see a lot of these people building, the first thing they want to do is buy some camshaft. I mean, they want, what's the camshaft? Camshaft. And then they don't have a cylinder head that can flow the air, and they don't have a carburetor that can supply the fuel. But they got this big, massive camshaft, big, massive engine, but no way to feed it. It's almost like take Usain Bolt and make him breathe through a soda straw. How fast you think? You think he's gonna break any world records? No. You know, no. Got to breathe. He's got to breathe in order to get enough fuel to those muscles and bones to get him down that track. Same thing here. I just wanted to run a stock rejetted carburetor. It's plenty of good enough for me. If I was building a screamer, I'd just get a 22 millimeter Mikuni and be done with it. The camshaft just sort of complements that whole process. Where I would really spend a lot of money if I were really wanting serious power would be in the carburetor first and then the cylinder head second. I would either buy a cylinder head that has bigger valves, the bigger valves have been cut, complete port job, even more milling for higher compression. I think what happens is guys get on these websites like ARC Racing, like ENR Racing, like OMB Warehouse, and they just look at what they can buy. And they're just buying stuff online, and they don't necessarily have the experience, knowledge, or anything like that to deal with these things. And they just order what makes the most sense inside their own brains, even though that's just... So they'll go out and buy a stinking 308 cam, and all they have is a stock carburetor and a stock, like, cylinder head. I mean, you don't even have a carburetor in the cylinder head that can feed, right? And yet they're going to run this big cam. No, as opposed to, no, I'm going to run a 22 millimeter carburetor. I'm going to run 27, 25 intake valves. I'm going to have 18 cc head, and I'm going to port that whole head. Once you get all that sorted out, then you start thinking about a camshaft. And that's how I built this motor. I said, so that's all I got today, man. Building engines, trying to get engines built. Sometimes it's better to just build it up to the point of where you're sick and tired of working on it and then just put it away for a couple of days. You can do that when you're not depending on your hopped up engine to be your main work engine. Someone who has lost an entire fishing season, take it from me. Build from a fresh engine. Do not take your stock engine and go changing it really in any way. Get a whole new engine. Now you have two engines. Two engines is one, because one of them's going to fail at some point. You have a backup. Okay. But anyway, that's all I got, guys. See ya.